Hello, it's Alex, and I wanted to talk to you about my Rover 2000 automatic. Now, so many people say to me, oh, 2000 automatic, that's the slowest of the lot. Why do you want that? Is it really that slow? Let's find out. Right, here we are in Mr. Jenkins. Choke in. Put the lip gloss on. Can't have dry lips in a P6. Now, for any of you that enjoy watching my feet on the pedals, there's not a lot to see. It's an automatic. There's only 2 pedals. It's cold. So I've got my boots on, and you can't see a lot with the transmission tunnel anyway. So I put on my weird seat belt. It says, this side up, insert tongue from below. This tongue here. So you do that, and then tighten that bit up, so you're in here solid. Lovely. So, just started it up from cold, as you heard, and we're just going to go out for a little drive now. He's warmed up a little bit by sitting on the drive. So here we are, out and about in my Rover 2000 automatic from 1967. So it's a series 1. It's just on the changeover of when they went over to BL, British Leyland. So this really is a proper Rover. Before British Leyland took them over. It's my favourite car for going around towns. Although it is quite big, it's not as big as a standard saloon these days. So it's a lot smaller than a Ford Focus or a Volkswagen Passat. It's a lot narrower, fits in spaces better, and I can see the front and pretty much the back as well. I've got a lovely tow bar fitted at the back, so that's my parking sensor. The steering wheel's massive and thin. That's how I like it. It's what I'm used to. It aids turning without power steering. It's a lot easier to turn, in my eyes, a thinner wheel, because you can properly grab hold of it. The steering's quite light compared to something like my P4. It can be heavy if you try dry steering, but it's not recommendable to do dry steering anyway, because you wear out the tyres and all sorts prematurely. So you just have to learn, teach yourself how to steer as you're turning, if that makes sense, whilst you're moving. You can't do dry steering. And it's nippy. It's nippy at low speeds, which I'll demonstrate, you know, when we come up to roundabouts. stands for lock, although some people will argue that it stands for low, like that pigeon was flying. I've got documented proof on 2 occasions that Rover called this function lock, and I will demonstrate to you how to drive using the lock function a bit later on. So we're at a set of traffic lights now. There's no one next to us, so it might be hard for you to gauge how quick we're going to go off the lights. So I'm hoping later on we'll get to some roundabout or lights or something, and there'll be other cars beside us so you can see how quick we can pull off. I mean, it's not going to push your guts back into your back, it's not going to give you G-force, and it's not going to throw you back in your seat, but for modern day traffic, modern day driving, it's absolutely fine. The suspension on the P6 is a strange setup if you are aware of it. The coil springs point towards the cabin area rather than up. The coil springs are mounted horizontal instead of vertical. That's at the front. In the rear, there's no leaf springs. We've got a Didion tube and elbow setup. So there's coil springs on arms that are connected by a tube rather than an axle as such. So it gives it all that articulation. So as you lean, the tube goes in and out, so the wheels stay straight. It's hard to explain, but I'm sure there's some information online about how it works. It can be quite noisy in the cabin area on this car, especially at higher speeds, but I'm used to it. I own a Land Rover. If you want something more refined at higher speeds, I definitely recommend the P4. It's very quiet, you can't hear the engine, and it goes well on the motorway. So in second gear at 40 there. So it changed into third gear at 40. So now it's changed into third, you can hear it's a lot quieter, but that initial getting up to speed can be quite noisy. There's a little Vauxhall going a bit slow here, so we can get in front of that. No problems. It's disc brakes all round on this car, so it stops on the button, just like you want. Now I'm not pushing this hard, I'm not stamping my foot into the ground. I'm just pressing the pedal so it moves. Day today. I've been looking forward to this drive. love driving this car. Although you could argue it's easy because I haven't got to change gear, it's fun. If you get it on the little lanes and that, you can really sort of chuck it around. You can get uprated anti-roll bars which stop it wallowing so much apparently. But I've been debating getting one, but I've driven this for so long as it is. I'm used to it. I like it. See, everyone's going slow. So you can kick down by pressing X braking, you can achieve a little bit of engine braking by knocking it into L, because when you knock it into L, like if I do it now, can't feel it because it's quite smooth, but it knocks it into second gear. And then to change back into third, you just knock it back into D1. I'll do some more demonstrating on that in a second. Just need to sort of pull over, really. Or stop anyway. But this is ideal, isn't it? You know, driving around the streets. You know, I'm hardly touching the accelerator pedal, it's just sort of going along on tick over. Here, I'll pull over here a second. See if we can do some demonstrating. Wait for this van to go. So, putting it in L now. That is now first gear, okay? So we pull away. And then to change into second, you go D1 lock. Because that changes it into second, and then you lock it into second. So we're in second gear now, and it will not change up to third, but it will change down into first if the engine speed is low enough, or the road speed. There you go. It just dropped back down into first, so we're in first gear again now. So we go across the roundabout, and then we go D1 lock. That's in second gear now, and it will not change up into third until you put it into D1. You don't lock it into third, if that makes sense. So we're still in second. If I were to kick down now, it would kick down into first. I don't like to do that. I really don't. I can see the fuel gauge go down. But imagine if you're towing a trailer. This is ideal. We're in second gear, so it's keeping the torque up. So we'll be, you know, if we're towing, we won't want it to change into third gear, because if it changes into third gear now, it will, you know. I hope that's given some of you a better understanding of how this lock function works. So I'm in third now, at sort of 25 mile an hour, which is fine. But if you're towing, or even going uphill, being in third is not the right gear to be in, really. So you'd knock it down. There we are, that's a nice smooth change down into first now. So again, lock it into first when this coach gets out of the way. So we're in first. D1, lock into second. And I'm just going to go and see my little Allegro now. Right, I've got my fleece on now because it's a bit cold out. I've just put Peggy away, so it's time to go home. My mate used to say that the L on the gearbox stood for launch control. I'll drive it manually again. So we're in lock, so we're locked into first gear. way to get down into first is if you really, really kick it down, which I wouldn't recommend. Or if you, I think, go below about 10 mile an hour, and then it knocks down into first automatically. So you see it's locked into second now, so I can sort of give it some beans. Come on. I mean, as I say, it's not going to pull you back in the seats, but we So what did you think? Is the P6 2000 automatic slow? No, just a bit noisy. I don't find it slow at all. Jesse's a bit slow on takeoff, and the change between first and second sort of makes it slow on the takeoff, whereas this is just sort of put your foot down and go. On the motorway, quite capable of doing the 70 mile an hour and beyond, but it is a bit noisy. Would I recommend one of these? Absolutely. You know, I love this car. It's got to be set up right. You've got to have the kick down set up right so it changes gear at the right time. My tappets have all been done spot on. And yeah, it's just up to scratch really. I use it daily. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.